Hello, Bob Riedfeld here, preaching and teaching minister of the Spring Hill Christian Church of rural Oak Lockney, Georgia, and welcome to another section of Are We in the End Times Now, which is part of my overall lesson on From Now to Eternity, Prophecies and the End Time, information that I've gleaned from my studies at Cincinnati Christian University, as well as from the book by Dr. Jack Cottrell of that same name from his collected writings volume number 12, published by the Christian Restoration Association. The last time we talked about this section, we talked about Are We in the End Times Now? And we look at some different things, and we decided maybe not. That the Lord was, God was in His book, the Bible, was ambiguous enough so that every generation could say we could be in the end times right now, but specific enough that there would be some things that we could look for, that it might be the end of this earth age as we know it. We looked and we saw, that there are new circumstances that bring more and more open, more blatant, more shameless engagement in ungodly beliefs and practices, causing our consciences to harden even more. We live in a time of exceedingly great falsehood. We talked about in religion, talked about falsehood in science. We talked about falsehood in philosophy that's being taught, and I remember I talked about that. That's what's being taught in our colleges and universities, and I think parents should really take a serious note of that and really be in prayer about where they want to send their grown children. We live in a time of exceedingly great wickedness. Sin is no longer an acceptable term anymore. There's just blatant shamelessness. There's a loss of any sense of guilt or shame in anything. The Roe v. Wade thing, the abortions on demand, almost to the point of the child can be born and killed. The gay lifestyle, that kind of stuff, it's considered to be normal. I don't have to tell you all the different things that the wickedness has just increased greatly over time. There's just this flood or this tsunami of wickedness that qualifies, in my opinion, as a sign of the times. And it's a modern version of, like I said before, Psalm 2 verses 1 through 3, where the present kings of the earth rebelling against God are the culture kings, the elites and the leaders and the stars who control the media and entertainment industries. They're shaping public opinion and behavior. And I see them acting out what Paul condemns in Romans 1:32, not only practicing such things that are worthy of condemnation, but also giving hearty approval to others who do them. Also, again, it's a parallel to Revelation 17, 1 through 5, and I'll go through that. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and spoke with me, saying, "Come here, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed acts of immorality, and those who dwell on the earth were made drunk with the wine of her immorality. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, full of blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was clothed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a gold cup full of abominations and of the unclean things of her immorality. And on her forehead a name was written, a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth." This picture of this shameless hedonism is all more significant in the view of the fact that the emptying of the seven bowls of the wrath of God, Revelation 16:1, of which this scene is a part, is probably a symbolic representation of the short time or the little season of Satan's being loosed that's talked about in Revelation chapter 20, verses 7 through 9. And this makes the recent explosion of wickedness in modern culture a likely sign that Christ's return is near. Third, we live in a time when the church is the target of much satanic persecution. This this third sign that Christ may be coming soon, an emphasis on may, is the widespread persecution of those who wear the name Christian. This is nothing new. Every age will be able to identify something that falls into this category, and those who approach this issue from the standpoint of the dispensational premillennialism tend to put Sorry about that. I had an interruption. All part of ministry. So anyway, we were just talking about now how we live in the time. A third thing is we live in the time when the church is a target of much satanic persecution. And, you know, this third sign may be coming soon of Christ sign. You know, there's widespread persecution if you wear the name of Christian. And like I said, this is nothing new. Every age can look at something where they can see that they've been persecuted. And those who approach this issue, again, like I was beginning to say, from the dispensational premillennialism, tend to put most of the emphasis on this point under the heading of the Great Tribulation. And this is mainly a result of interpreting prophecy in terms of literal rather than spiritual warfare. And I don't see this aspect of the end of times to be as serious as the pervasiveness of falsehood and wickedness, but I think it must be considered. The loosing of Satan does result in a worldwide attack on the camp of the saints and the beloved city, which from Revelation 29, which I believe to be the church. And in terms of physical persecution, this is still going on in certain communist countries in our time, especially in China and North Korea. The most recent attacks seem to be coming, in China, the communist government. They instituted a program called Principle for Promoting Chinese Christianity for the next 5 years. There was an online article by Jamie Siddell. China's War on Religion says this is a plan to sinicize Christianity in its borders. In other words, to make it conform to Communist Party requirements. So for so far, the following things have happened. Bibles have been seized and banned. Digital versions can no longer be found online. Images of Christ are being replaced with posters of President Xi Jinping. I'm not sure, I probably butchered that. Christian children are no longer allowed to attend church. Hundreds of small and private churches have been shut down. Party enforcers have been making life uncomfortable for many of the remainder. One pastor says we must pay dearly just to practice our faith. In recent decades, we've witnessed similar persecution of Christians in countries controlled by non-Christian religions. In India, radical Hindus have physically attacked Christians. And this is a report from the Open Doors website that was accessed in 2018. It says, because Hindu radicals view Christians as outsiders, Christianity in India is in more danger than ever before. These radicals are intent on cleansing the nation of both Islam and Christianity and employ violence to this end. Usually converts to Christianity experience the worst persecution and are constantly under pressure to return to Hinduism. Campaigns known as Gar Wapsi, or homecoming, are used to get Christians to denounce their newfound faith. These converts are often physically assaulted and sometimes killed for refusing to deny Christ. The government continues to look away when religious minorities are attacked, indicating that violence may continue to increase in the coming years. And I don't know, I don't do a lot of study for that, so I'm not real sure how that is. In nations that are dominated by Islam, Christians are usually severely limited in what they can do to live as Christians. They're often sentenced to death on false charges of blaspheming Allah or Muhammad. We've all been, devastated as of the beheadings of Christians by ISIS terrorists, Muslim mobs. Nigeria physically attacked and murdered Christians. The Open Doors website says this about what Christians in the northern and middle belt regions of Nigeria are suffering. They suffer from violence perpetrated by Islamic militant groups Death, physical injury, and loss of property are commonplace, as well as loss of land and livelihood. In northern Nigeria, society as a whole treats Christians as second-class citizens who deserve to be discriminated against and excluded. Christians from Muslim backgrounds also face persecution from their own families who reject and pressure them to renounce Christianity. To make matters worse, corruption has made the government ill-equipped to protect Christians from violent attacks. And so, there's just this massive amount of attack on Christianity, of persecution in other countries, and we can start to see it in our own country. They may not be physical attacks like they are in other countries, but they're just discriminated against, and with the offering of jail time and prison time for those viewpoints. Our next section: how can we be ready for Armageddon? Whether it be now or later, Christians should always be ready for the any moment return of Christ. We need to be ready to overcome whatever weapons the devil hurls at us, whenever that may be. See Revelation 2, 10, and 11. We're told in Ephesians 6, 10 through 17 to put on the full armor of God so that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. And in preparing to fight against falsehood, we must learn to love the truth. And in that short time, or that little season when Satan is loose and when the man of lawlessness is rampaging with all the deception of wickedness, those who did not receive the love of the truth so as to be saved will be those who perish. 2 Thessalonians 2:10. And that is why Paul says the very first piece of armor we must put on is the belt of truth. Ephesians 6:14. Remember Revelation 1:16 and 19:15. Christ conquers his enemy with a two-edged sword coming out of his mouth. And what comes out of his mouth? His mouth is truth. And then in preparing to fight against wickedness, we must make sure that we are practicing righteousness now. Also, Ephesians 6:14, Paul says the next item of armor we must don is the breastplate of righteousness. And I believe that in this case, Paul is not talking about the imputed righteousness of Christ, but rather the habitual, holy living that we are empowered to do by the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. Living a righteous life should be so natural to us that we would not even think of succumbing to the pressures of our lustful and hedonistic culture. And then finally, in preparing for any persecution that might come our way, we must learn how to put our trust not in ourselves, but only in God. Regarding our defensive armor, Paul says in Ephesians 6:16 that in addition to all, we must be taking up the shield of faith with which you will be able to distinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Trust God. He's the one that is in charge. And so the main thing to remember is this: when the battle of Armageddon arrives, no matter what its nature may be, Jesus Christ will be the victor. Revelation 20 verse 9 and 10 says, "And they came upon the broad plain of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city," which we believe to be the church. "And fire came down from heaven and devoured them. And the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are also. And they will be tormented day and night forever and ever." And also in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 8, it says, "Then that lawless one will be revealed, when the Lord will slay with the breath of his mouth and bring to an end by the appearance of his coming." And Revelation 7:14 says, "These will wage war against the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them, because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with him are the called and chosen and faithful." And let us make sure that we stay by faith on the winning side. Okay, that is the end of that particular section on are we in the end times now? I hope you've enjoyed this lesson as much as I have enjoyed presenting it to you, and I hope you have a great rest of the week, and may God bless you.